Hey guys, what's up? What's going on? I know it's been a while, and I'm sorry for the break in the scheduled programming. The next vlog that was supposed to come out was going to be Stockholm episode 2. However, based on recent events, I decided to instead fit this in between the Stockholm vlogs and talk about some of the changes about traveling to Cuba recently. This was made partially because my original how to travel video to Cuba is by far my most successful video, and I feel like it would be irresponsible of me not to provide a better update for you guys as far as how to go, what the different changes that our president has put in place mean to you guys, the travelers. This video isn't going to be like a 10-minute long breakdown of some of the best things in Cuba. If you want to see some of that, you can obviously follow and watch my vlogs, the whole Cuba series, as well as the how to travel Cuba, because there's still some important tips in there. Just some of the legalities behind it have obviously changed. I'm going to break this video down as far as what has changed and what hasn't changed, because there are some key distinctions, and I'll start off with what hasn't changed. President Trump has not stopped travel to Cuba. He has just made some changes to the different exceptions that you can go, as well as putting some additional restrictions on different entities in Cuba, which are important to note. You can still travel to Cuba under 12 different exceptions, and I have them right here on my laptop, so I'm just going to read them off to you to make sure I get them absolutely correct. You can travel there for, let's see, certain intergovernmental organizations, journalistic activity, professional research, professional meetings, educational activities, religious activities, public performances, clinics, workshops, athletic, and other competitions and exhibitions that offer support for the Cuban people. So if you fall under one of those guidelines, then you're still able to go. I will caution you, however, and say, like, journalistic activities do not include you just wanting to go down there and take photos. You being an independent photojournalist, you have to work for an accredited institution, and some of the things that have changed could impact whether or not, you may actually get caught kind of putting that down if you don't exactly qualify. In addition, you're still able to bring back goods, so you're still able to bring back, paintings you may buy, little trinkets, cigars if you wish. All of that has not changed. The biggest and most impactful change that has happened is that the Treasury Department is going to be eliminating the people-to-people travel that is not educational in nature. For those of you who remember my last video, this is the type of travel I recommended to go if you were looking to travel independently, as it gave you a lot of leeway and was very hard to enforce or legally define. Basically, the regulation just said if you were conducting in any interaction that benefited the Cuban people, it was considered people-to-people travel. And that's obviously very difficult to enforce. It pretty much means that as long as you're going down there and spending some money on maybe helping support a local restaurant or something like that, technically you may be benefiting the Cuban people. So now that this has been eliminated, it is very likely going to greatly impact individual travel. You are still able to go under people-to-people missions as long as it is a group trip. So there'll be a lot less individual travel allowed, and probably more and more group tours of Cuba going forward. Now, when shooting this, I decided I wasn't going to get political, but obviously this is disappointing. This is definitely the best way that you could have gone to go see the country, is just traveling independently, getting lost, meeting people that you walk by on the street instead of nicely choreographed tours. Nevertheless, I would still recommend checking out some of those group tours. I'm sure there are some that are really good and really well done if you really do want to go to travel to Cuba. Another change that is put in place is that the Trump administration is going to be disallowing any economic activities that benefit the government, specifically the military. This may seem like a pretty easy thing to avoid, but you'd actually be surprised. A lot of members of the Cuban military are well connected in the economy, and this could impact different hotel businesses. For example, the very popular Hotel Nacional is actually owned by someone, or partially owned by someone, who is a lieutenant in the Cuban military. This is likely going to push travelers towards Airbnb and other services, which are more than fine. I stayed in an Airbnb when I was in Cuba, and I enjoyed it very much. Nevertheless, it may impact availability of different housing options when you're there, so make sure you book ahead of time unless you plan on just showing up and staying in a casa particulares. One of the final changes is that the Office of the Treasury Department is going to be setting up some kind of enforcement mechanisms as far as auditing personal traveler records to make sure there are no violations of these rules. How they go about enforcing this, I do not know. In fact, These regulations actually aren't even started yet. They haven't even been released. Basically, the announcement that the Trump administration made predated any different changes, actual substantial changes in law, by a couple months. So who knows? This video could be completely out of date in 1 or 2 months when the Treasury Department updates and finally kind of gives the U.S. public the different regulations that were in place previously. However, the bottom line, when these do take effect, which they will eventually, is that individual travel without any sponsorship is going to be really, really difficult. I'm not saying you may not be able to get away with it, but I don't know if I would want to test it. It seems like these regulations are going to be enforced. They're actually going to be putting together an auditing department for it, and it may be more difficult to board a plane unless you have a group voucher for why you're taking a person-to-person trip. I hope this video was helpful. I hope it gave you guys a good idea of kind of what changes have been taking place or what have taken place and what this means if you are looking to plan a trip to Cuba. If you have any further questions, absolutely leave them down in the comment section. You can also reach me by hitting my contact form on my website, which links directly to my personal email, so I'll get that and respond to you, as many of you guys did to the first Cuba video. And if you guys were here this week expecting to watch the Stockholm video, that'll be released next week. I look forward to seeing you guys then. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, it means a lot. And stay tuned for more travel exploration videos and advice.